Okay, good. So settling down onto your backs and just letting yourself arrive on the floor. And maybe a couple of big exhalations. So, yeah, I think we're still in this, you know, sort of unfamiliar, uncertain situations. So the more we can use our awareness of our breathing, use the relaxing, undoing qualities of the breath. Sorry, there's a big lorry just coming up my road. The relaxing, undoing qualities of the breath to help us relax. Certainly, I found this very helpful recently. So the first thing I'd like you to do lying on your back is to feel the weight of your head on the floor. And then just start to let your head roll a little bit to the right and a little bit to the left. So feel that your head is heavy and let your head, let's say, roll, ease from side to side. Make it as comfortable, as lazy as possible. But also use this movement to just help you become aware of how is your neck feeling today? How are your shoulders feeling today? Because I think, you know, if you're working from home and doing a lot of computer work, you can start to get very tense around the neck and shoulders. And then it's got the bin men here, which is good news, but it's going to be a little bit noisy for a moment. So in your own time, bend your knees and bring your feet to stand on the floor. And you're going to come to letting your knees tilt to the right and to the left. That's nice. So this is with your feet hip width apart, not with your feet. Yeah, that's it. Good. And just see how that feels. See how it feels around your pelvis. Good. See how it feels into your hip joints. How does it feel in your lower back? So just do a few more of those movements, tilting the knees to the right and to the left. And then settle in the center. Let your pelvis come to rest. Let a breath come in, and as a breath leaves you, fold your right knee into your chest and hold around the top of your knee or the back of your thigh. And then what I'd like you to do is lengthen your left leg out on the floor. So we're trying to let the left leg be as heavy as possible. So the right knee is folded into the chest, the left leg is long. It might be that you want to let your left leg roll a little bit or shake a little bit on the floor. Another thing you could do with that long leg is to stretch into your heel and spread your toes. You want and the right leg, the bent knee, you want that leg to be as passive as possible, passive and relaxed. Good, just have another couple of breaths there. So feeling how you can be lengthening out through the lower back on the right side and then opening out through the front of the hip joint on the left side. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you, and then change over your legs. So fold in. You might want to lengthen both legs out for a moment, possibly, or fold both knees in for a moment, yeah? So maybe just do the same thing with both legs. I don't mind what it is. And then end up so you've got your left knee folded into you, your right leg long on the ground. So you hold around either the top of the right knee or the back of the right thigh. No, sorry, the left thigh. So you either hold around the top of the left knee or the back of the left thigh. And what can you do to the right leg to really help that leg settle and relax on the floor? It could be shaking the leg, it could be extending into the heel. Good. Good. And have another couple of breaths there, letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. And then in your own time, just once more, do the same thing with both legs, whatever it is you want to do. So it could be both legs long, It could be both knees bent in towards you. Some of you are taking both legs up to the ceiling. That's another possibility. So whatever you want to do for a moment with your legs. And then once more, you're going to bend your knees. You're going to stand your feet on the floor. But this time, you're going to take your feet so they're as wide as your yoga mat, the narrow edge of your yoga mat. Okay, very nice. And then start to let your knees tilt to the right and to the left again. So this will start to feel a little bit more like what we were doing in sitting. Because, yeah, as you tilt your knees to the right and to the left now, there's probably a bit more space for them to come a bit closer to the ground. And you also might feel that this movement is happening a bit more in your hip joints. So yes, the pelvis is tilting, but the legs are also moving a little bit more in the hip joints. So it's up to you. You can carry on going from side to side. Sheila, make sure the knee that's going to the outside also drops out. Yeah, that's it. Yes, good. Lovely. If it's comfortable for you, you could stay with your knees falling down to the side for a couple of breaths. So if your knees come down to one side, it might be nice to let your head go the other way. Knees down one way, head the other way. Have a few breaths there. Obviously, don't stay there if it's not comfortable. And I think, Elaine, that's the really important thing in these classes you do at home where I can't see you so well, is you need to really err on the side of caution. Not caution, but just not doing anything that's not comfortable. So if you've been having a few breaths with your knees going to one side, take your knees to the other side. Have a few breaths with your legs going the other way. Let your head roll in the opposite direction. Try and let the knees drop as much as possible. And again, obviously, if it doesn't feel comfortable coming out, but having a few breaths there. Now, in your own time, when you come out, you're going to, if you like, Nigel, you might not want to, you might want to lengthen your legs on the ground. If you like, you're going to fold your knees into your chest, do a little bit of rocking with both knees folded into your chest, and you're going to lengthen your legs up towards the ceiling and give them a shake out. Okay, and what we're going to do from here now is roll onto one side. So we're coming into that movement where we come into our balance on our side, Anantasana. So come onto one side, it doesn't matter which, and I will teach without saying left and right. So come onto your side, and you're trying to lengthen yourself out on your side. I will do the same thing so you can see me. So perhaps the first thing to do is, what are you going to do with your head and your arms? So I quite like to prop my head up in my hand. You don't have to. You could rest your head down onto your arm. You could even have that bottom arm long. And then maybe to start with, have your top hand on the floor in front of you. And you could do a little bit of rocking side to side, forwards and back rather, sorry. So let your weight rock a little bit forwards and back, and see if you can find a really nice settled place on your side. Your legs are long, so feel that you're sending your heels away from you, and see if you can also feel maybe the bottom foot in contact with the floor, perhaps somewhere near the toes. And then see what's it like to come into tree pose here, and you might need to use your hand. So then it becomes a bit more of a balance. Bring your foot onto the inner thigh. And you've got to press your heel quite firmly onto your thigh. And it's up to you. This hand could come back on the floor, or you might want to be holding your ankle. See how it feels. We are thinking about balancing, settling down through the side of our body. And then from here, now I should have told you at this point, you may need your belts, but from here, then we fold the knee in towards the top side of the body, towards the armpit on the top side of the body. And then from here, you catch your trouser leg, you could catch your ankle, you could use your belt, sometimes that makes you feel more wobbly, you could catch your big toe, and lengthening out that top leg as much as possible. And what we're trying to do here is not roll back onto our bottoms too much, trying to stay on the side of the body. And have a few breaths here. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then when you're ready to come down, see if you can reverse the movement. So from having that leg long, we bend the knee in towards the armpit on the top side of the body. We come back through tree pose. We come back to having two long legs for a moment. So you've always got the choice. You don't have to go through all these stages if you don't want to. You can stay, even in this first one. And then from here, let yourself roll all the way onto your belly. And just lie comfortably on your belly for a moment. So I don't mind where you have your hands. We're not doing anything very much this first time on your belly. So I had my hands under my forehead, but you don't have to have them there. Can you give your pelvis a bit of a wiggle? That's it. And in terms of giving your pelvis a wiggle, it's about what feels comfortable. So a little bit of a wiggle for the pelvis. Very nice. And then maybe just a couple of quiet breaths on your belly, because then we're going to roll onto the other side and do Anantasana, our balance. Sometimes it's called sleeping Vishnu, sleeping Buddha. If you've been to Thailand, I think most of the Buddhas in Thailand seem to be in this position. So, yeah, looking very serene. So we could take that thought into side two. So coming back onto the other side now. So remember, the first thing is organising. You might not be able to see me. I'm just going to move down the mat a little bit more. Thinking about what you're doing with your head and your arm. Propping up your head, for me, it just makes me feel a bit more alert when I'm trying to balance. But you could have your head down. Yeah, like this. Trying to feel that if you are propping up your head, that your elbow is moving away from you in a long line. Elbow to heels. Hand on the floor. Little bit of rocking forwards and back. I'm just going to shift up my mat a little bit. You can see me better. And then again, like we did on the other side, so trying to feel that we're in a long line rather than a sort of banana shape. And then from here, we can move through these stages. So coming into this tree pose on our side and seeing how that feels. Can we have a few breaths in tree pose on our side? Using your hand on your ankle if you need to. And then from tree pose on our side, we see how it is to fold the top knee in towards the armpit. Now, I didn't say this on the other side, but if at this point you feel really wobbly, you can always bend your bottom knee. So the leg that remains on the floor, you could bend the knee and bring it further forwards. And that's going to make you feel more stable. And then from this place, with your knee towards your armpit, you're going to catch your trouser leg, your ankle, your big toe, and lengthen your leg up towards the ceiling and see how that feels. And if it doesn't feel good, come out. If it feels okay, have a few breaths there. So at this point, we're just feeling that sort of, I suppose, stretch through the leg, but we're also trying to feel really steady and stable through the bottom edge of our body that's in contact with the ground. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then start to reverse the movement. Come down through those other places, those other positions. So your knee to your armpit, your foot into tree pose, your leg lengthening out on top of the other. And then rolling over onto your belly once more. So come back onto your belly, and we're just going to do a little bit more on the belly. So again, start off with wiggling your pelvis a little bit from side to side. Have your hands wherever you like at the moment. And then try the one where you bend your knees and you take the soles of your feet towards the ceiling. We bend our knees, take the soles of our feet towards the ceiling. So we're bending, that's it, bending the knees, lifting the lower legs off the floor, good. And then tilting your feet from side to side. Yeah, I think my internet connection cut out for a moment. I was thinking, hang on, no one's moving their legs. So well done. See how that one feels. Looks very nice. I'm getting waved to by lots of legs. Elaine, I can't see your legs, but I'm trusting you're still there. So.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and then from there, let your legs come back down. You're still there, Elaine, good.
Yes.
Now, video has frozen at my end. Actually, no, it's moving again, good. So legs back on the floor. Now bring your arms into that position I was showing you. So you've got your arms either side of your head. So your arms in a big circle either side of your head. And just see how it feels a few times to exhale, sink into your forearms and lift your head. That's it. And just do this a few times. So as you exhale, come up. Maybe let a breath come in once you've lifted your head. Go back down with the next exhalation. See what works for you. I think it's helpful to move on an out breath. And do this a few times, lifting the head and then bringing the head back down again. So it's the head also and the upper part of the chest, isn't it? And you're trying to feel that movement in your upper back so that it's not just the muscles of the neck getting involved, it's the muscles of the upper back as well. So perhaps just once or twice more. And then from here, you're going to be folding back into child pose, which will probably be a big relief, certainly to Mel. So if no one else. So fold back into child pose. Oh, very nice getting to see some people. Good. So just see how child pose feels. If it feels nice to be in child pose, stay there a bit longer. But what we're going to be doing from child pose is coming on hands and knees and doing some cat movements. So whenever you're ready, you can do that. You can come onto hands and knees. Oh, that's nice. I can see Elaine's green back now, so I'm happy. Helen, you're completely whited out, but I'm trusting you're still there. So, okay, so come onto hands and knees. Settle yourself down with your hands, with your wrists under your shoulders and your knees under your hips. Do a little bit of circling of your shoulders over your hands to help you settle down in this position. And then when you're ready, you can start to move into cat. So rounding your back, dipping your spine. Seeing how these movements feel today. And I'm just going to come and have a look at you. Yeah, so round your back, dip your spine in cat pose. And letting your breath flow in and out. Keeping the movements comfortable. You can also add in some tail wagging, yeah? So whenever you want to, add in a bit of tail wagging as well as rounding up and dipping down. Think about what would feel good in your back today. And also, in your own time, you're going to be moving into a couple of dog poses. So whenever you feel that you'd like to move off hands and knees into dog pose, you can tuck your toes under. You can exhale, rock your hips back, and then up into dog. And see how that first dog pose feels. Big exhalations in dog. Good. Very nice. So, yeah, so as I said, a couple of dog poses. So if you come into the first dog pose and it doesn't feel amazing, don't worry, come back down. You can come back down, you can go straight into another dog pose, you could go into child pose, you could do a bit more of your cat and tail wagging. But yes, in your own time, just taking the time to do some of these other movements, but in your own time, doing a couple of dog poses. And when you come into that second dog pose, it might be there's just more possibility for releasing a little bit more, for starting to feel that things are undoing. Good. So when you've had some time in your second dog pose, so if you haven't done your second dog pose, do a second dog pose. When you have done a second dog pose, then have a few quiet breaths in child pose. Okay, so just in child pose, let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. Feel the contact of your forehead on the ground, the contact of your elbows. If you've just arrived in child pose, have a couple more breaths. Otherwise, what we're going to be doing is coming back onto hands and knees and a few more cat movements. And this time on hands and knees, I want you to use cat to try and find the neutral position where you're neither rounding or dipping. So come back to cat. And actually this time it's really important, when I was doing this earlier, I hadn't really focused very well, to make sure the hands are directly under the shoulders. So rounding and dipping a few times, pausing with your spine in neutral. And then from cat, from this neutral place, you're going to come on into fox pose. So you're going to be lengthening one leg back behind you. You'll be really extending into your heel, and then take the opposite arm forward. So we're trying to feel long. We're trying to feel that the heel is the same level as the pelvis, and so is the hand. You're looking down at the floor rather than forwards towards your fingertips. And have a few breaths in. This is all about trying to be stable and steady. It looks very good, everyone. Well done. And then you can come back down. Then you can try the other side. So the other opposite pair of arm and leg. So extending into your heel, reaching forwards with your fingertips, trying to feel steady, stable. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. Good. When you come back down, whenever you want to, just sit back over your heels. You don't have to be sitting down and kneeling. I'd just like you to be able to shake your hands out a moment. Now, the next thing we're going to do, I think we did in class, probably might have been in our last actual class, which is, how would it be to try to balance on the same arm and leg? We did, didn't we? Eddie did. Okay, so in this one, I tend to keep my top knee quite bent. So in this one, you can feel the pelvis is having to rotate, yeah, to help you balance. So give that one a little go. Yeah, very nice. So for those of you who know it, what's going on my clumsy. Sorry, dishwasher emptying. I had to put on hold. Very nice, everyone. Yeah, so that for those of you who know, so it's a bit like a sort of little version of half moon pose, isn't it? So where we're letting our pelvis, so try the other side if you haven't yet. So where we're letting our pelvis roll on top of the standing leg. And to really sort of breathe and do our best to feel steady here. And then when you've done this on both sides, I think come down and then slowly, unlike me, visit dog pose and just do a sort of quiet, steady dog pose. Familiar with your body and your mind. Come into dog pose, you could be bending on you at time, but just, yeah, can you just really be in dog pose, a sort of familiar place. Hopefully the backs of the legs are starting to undo a little bit. Can you feel nice and wide across the back of the shoulders? Let your breath come in, let your breath leave you. Good. And then come down from dog pose, because we're going to do another dog, but we're going to do the one leg dogs. And I just wanted to show you, I know you all know this, but I think, you know, in this new format we have, it's more, you know, it's not my, well, it's more about looking, isn't it? So just look at me. I'll probably do a really poor job of it, but I want you to play around with. So this is the one leg dog where our pelvis is level. And I want you to play around with these ones where we're trying to then roll the pelvis, a bit like we just did in that funny fox one. I'm rolling the pelvis either with this leg bent or this leg long. So I'll show you on the other side, pelvis level, then the pelvis starts to roll, like bent or straight, yeah? So just, yeah, having a little play around with those possibilities. I know they can feel quite challenging, so don't feel that you have to stay anywhere for long. And remember what I've been emphasizing. Don't do anything that's uncomfortable. Good. And just this feeling of what is your pelvis doing? Where is your pelvis? When is your pelvis level? When is your pelvis starting to roll a bit? So when we think about the pelvis rolling, it's the hip joint on the raised leg side. That side of the pelvis comes a bit higher. So try on one side, try on the other side, see how it feels. And when you've done both sides, you take your time. If you're enjoying it, you can do more. When you've done both sides, come in with back to dog pose with both feet on the ground, and then start to walk your hands in towards your feet into a forward bend, because we're actually going to be coming up into standing now. So that's it, from your dog pose, walking your hands into your feet, into a forward bend. Bend your knees as much as you like. Let your head go. Let the breath come in as the breath leaves you, rolling up into standing. And yourself arrive in standing. Lovely. So, Lane, very nice to see your face now. Not everyone's faces, some people's middles. So in standing, let's first of all do this one. So in these classes, so swinging our arms, loose swinging twists. So in these classes, we have a little bit more space. Sheila has a huge amount of space in her lovely house.
I don't have much height though. It's a very low ceiling, so I can't.
Is it a very low ceiling? Okay. Yeah, so it's interesting, all these things we have to work with, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like family distractions, animals, yeah, different ceiling heights. So hopefully you've got this nice space to swing your arms. And what I'd like you to feel is how your pelvis moves. Yeah, so the pelvis is coming along side to side. Okay, just a couple more times. We could do this. I hope we could do this for a whole hour and a half, although we might be busy. So, okay. So let that go. Look down at your feet hip width apart and parallel. And then bring your hands onto your belly, quite low down. So I want you just to have a few breaths with your hands on your belly, and this sense of really gathering your awareness into the belly. You could also have one hand on the back of the pelvis if you like. So this sense of the pelvis and the belly being one of the centers of ourselves. And if I'm feeling a bit heady, you know, my thoughts get running away with me, it's so helpful to bring my awareness down into my belly. Maybe you feel your belly moving a little bit as you breathe. Just this feeling of, being down here in the pelvis as perhaps a center of ourselves, as opposed to our head where we can often be. I'm just grabbing my book so I can see what we're doing. And the first few things we're going to be doing in standing, we're going to be thinking about keeping our pelvis quite fixed and facing forward. So it might be helpful to bring your hands here onto the rim of your pelvis. And you're going to bring one foot forwards and you're going to start tapping your foot. Yeah? So this one where we tap the foot in a little bit of so it's a little bit of a quarter circle, a third circle, but trying to leave the pelvis behind. So we're moving into the hip joint. Very nice. Let's do the other side. So swap feet, bring the foot a little bit further forwards and tap your foot in this little quarter, third circle. Pelvis stays pretty fixed, facing forwards. Okay, come back to here. Feel both feet on the floor for a moment. Maybe just let your arms go and close your eyes and feel both feet on the floor. Maybe sway a little bit from side to side. So again, when we think about being able to drop out of our head into our body, really feeling the feet on the floor is another very helpful thing if our thoughts are rushing away with us. So again, opening your eyes and bring your hands back here onto the rim of your pelvis. Come up onto the ball of one foot. And so I want you to do this movement where you're rotating on the ball of your foot. So my leg is moving in and out in the hip joint. And then from here, when your knee is turning out, we're going to come into a mini tree pose. So it could be that you keep some toes on the floor. If you need a wall next to you, move nearer to a wall. Or your foot could come completely off the floor onto your ankle. And we're going to bring our hands into prayer pose. Just see how this mini tree feels. We want to feel very much that our pelvis stays facing forwards. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. Notice how it feels to be in this little tree pose. We might want very much for our standing foot to be quiet, but it might be wobbling around like mine is, and that's fine. Just notice how it is. See if you can have one or two more cycles of breath here. So feeling the breath come in, feeling the breath leave you. And maybe one more time if that's possible. Good. Come down and have a little shake out, and we do exactly the same thing on the other side. So again, the first thing is hands on the pelvis. Come onto the ball of your other foot, the foot you just stood on, and find this movement where we're moving in the hip joint. Good. That's it. And the pelvis stays facing forwards. And then when your knee is turning out towards the side, it doesn't have to be that far, bring your foot onto your ankle. So it can be this mini tree, you can have some toes on the ground, you can bring your foot all the way off the ground if you like. Hands into prayer pose, let the shoulders drop. See how it feels to be on this second leg and foot. It might be easier, it might be more difficult. It's going to be different. So seeing what sensations you notice in your standing foot. And then seeing if you can feel your breathing. Maybe for 2 or 3 more cycles of breath. Feel the breath come in, feel the breath leave you. And then come down and have a little shake out. Now, We're going to do another version of tree pose. I'm coming up to the camera because I want to show you. We're going to do this hand mudra, which I was thinking, am I really going to do this on Zoom? But I thought we'll try. So just see. We've done this in class, but not for a little while. This is a hidraya mudra, which means courageous heart. So I thought it was quite good at the time. You've got the backs of your hands touching, and then you interlink your index finger, your middle finger and your little finger, and then your thumbs and your ring fingers touch. So thumbs and ring fingers.
Okay.
If you've interlinked your ring fingers, you need to free your ring fingers so they can touch with your thumbs. Are we anywhere near this?
Yeah. So they can touch with your thumb. Oh, I see, like that. Yeah.
Elaine, have you got the backs of your hands touching? Because you look like you've got the... Yes, you have. Okay, good. Good. Does that make sense to people? If it doesn't, yeah, very nice. Good, good. Okay, so it might be helpful to keep your hands like that, and then we'll come into the balance, and then we'll try bringing them. Then we'll try again. We'll do the balance on one side. So this is actually quite a nice another place to have the hands when we're trying to balance. And what we're going to do is we're going to come into the balance where we cross our ankles, and then your toes either come onto the floor on the outside of your standing foot, or you can bring your toes onto the outer edge of your standing foot. So we're very much crossing our lefts and rights here, which I think is helpful for feeling very steady. So see how this feels for a few breaths. Crossing the ankles either with your toes on the floor on the outside of your standing foot, or standing your toes on the outer edge of your standing foot, which helps the foot stay rooted. And then really letting the shoulders go. So with your hands in this position, you can let the shoulders relax, letting your breath come in, letting your breath leave you. Let's see if we can have another couple of cycles of breathing on this side. Breath comes in, breath leaves you. And then release everything. Shake out your arms and legs. We're going to come back. I want us to just do that hand mudra again for the other side. I don't tend to, I must say, you probably should, when you're doing this, change the cross of your wrists, but if that is too confusing, don't. So you could think of it a different way. You could think about the backs of the hands are touching. You interlink the little fingers, the middle fingers and the index fingers, thumb and ring finger touching. So this is this courageous heart mudra. Let's come back. Let's do the balance on the other side now, crossing the ankles. I'm resting my hands right onto my breastbone. So there's a lot of contact of my hands on my body. Crossing the ankles. So remember, your toes can either be on the floor beside your foot or standing on that outer edge of your foot, or half and half. And then seeing how does it feel to settle and breathe. Can you really let the shoulders drop? Maybe you feel the movement of your breath under your hands. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then in your own time, come down, have a little bit of a shake out. Now, you may need, we're going to do another standing balance, another tree pose variation. Two things, you may want to use the wall now, and you may want a belt, because, so if you're going to use the wall, you're going to stand on the foot furthest from the wall. We have been through this many times in class. We're going to do this one. Yeah, so some of you, I know, can hold your foot comfortably in lotus. So if you're holding your foot in half lotus, your knee needs to be able to drop and not be in discomfort. If you're using a belt, the belt is best around the ankle rather than the foot. And you want to be holding the belt quite close. That's it. So Elaine, you'll be better off. Actually, no, you're fine. You're fine. Ignore me. That looks good. You've done exactly what you were told. Top marks. So in this one, we're trying to let the knee drop down towards the floor. And the arm that's not holding the foot or the belt could grow up if you feel stable and can take your hand away from the wall and your shoulder can drop. So that's one possibility, and I really like that one. The other possibility is stay in your balances, but I'll just show you, is for this arm that you've taken up can also then come around your back. And it might be that your fingers come towards your elbow and the leg arm that's holding your leg. And of course, whenever you've had enough, come down and have a little bit of a shake out. Very nice. So in this one, it's all about this knee being able to drop. So just give your legs a shake out before we do the other side. Remember, if you're going to use the wall, you're standing on the foot furthest from the wall, either turn around or move to the wall. And then you've got your belt, or you're catching your foot, letting your knee drop. And just, what works for you? So you want to feel the knees dropping. So if you've caught your foot and your knee is sticking out forwards, it would be better to use your belt or your scarf, whatever you have, to be able to hold that leg. And keep your hands on the wall for as long as you need to. When and if you feel steady, it's quite nice to take that arm up. So the knee drops towards the floor, the arm reaches up towards the ceiling. There's quite a strong feeling of opening here, maybe through the front of the hip joint. And then you've also got the option of taking the arm around the back of your body. And you can really focus on breathing back towards that arm. And again, do come out in your own time. Have a little bit of a shake out. So we are going to be doing a little bit more balancing in a moment, but we're going to do a few forward bend, a couple of other things first. So first of all, bring your feet. So let's see, bring your feet so they're as wide as the mat. And we're going to come into a forward bend with the feet in this position. And when you're in your forward bend, you can do a bit of bending one knee, bending the other. So let a breath come in as you exhale, folding forwards, seeing how it feels to be in this forward bend with your feet as wide as your mat. Okay, so going all the way forwards. And then once you're in your forward bend, bending one knee, bending the other knee, making sure it feels comfortable, going from side to side. Make sure if you've taken your fingers onto the floor that your weight stays in your heels. Yeah, so the fingers don't have to be on the floor. If they are on the floor, just make sure they're not bearing weight. Very nice. And if you remember, sometimes we do this where we bend one knee and we swing the pelvis, and sometimes we bend one knee and we just let the pelvis tilt. So there's a bigger movement and there's a smaller movement. And whenever you're ready to come back up, you can sink into your heels and roll back up into standing, but keep your feet this wide. So as wide as the narrow edge of your mat. And then we're going to do some of these side stretching movements. So the bottom arm hangs, the top arm reaches up. And your pelvis, if you can see with me, I'm shifting my pelvis in the direction of my top arm. So this whole, one side of the body is really lengthening, the other side is gathering up. And just go from side to side a few times. Again, make sure it's comfortable. So you've got all these options. You don't have to move your pelvis side to side if you don't like that. Think about going up and over. Think about this arm, shaking it out. Here comes Otto. Otto, come on. Okay. Good. Okay, so just maybe once more on each side. And maybe give your legs a little bit of a shake out, because we're going to come back into another forward bend. Maybe just watch me for a moment. We're going to come into a wider forward bend now. And again, you could be bending one knee if you like. You could also just be spending some time folding forwards. Make sure your feet are parallel and you're not just collapsing onto your inner arches. So feet parallel, weight really in your heels. Coming forwards and sort of, yeah, what would you like to do? And not going too wide. Turn long ways on your mat, yeah, so your feet are not sliding around. So I have my double mats here, but yeah, turn the other way. And just, yeah, how does it feel today to be in a wide forward bend? And again, just remember, you can move however you like, whatever feels good to you. You want to keep your weight well in your heels. So if you take your hands on the floor, they're just there to stabilize you. They're not there to start to take weight. And really exhaling. So it's nice to spend a bit of time moving. It's nice to spend a bit of time in the center, just letting everything sort of flop. And good. If you like your wide forward bend, have a few more breaths there. If you're desperate to come out, please do. Have a little shake out, because we're going to come back to just a little bit more balancing. So this is where we get, this is where we get to a slightly more challenging bit of the class. And so don't push yourselves, but I also know this is sort of balance at the moment, isn't it? Because, you know, we may be not getting out and about and having as much exercise as we want. So I think it's also important to move, but not too much. Look, you've got two options with this next thing. One of them, I'm going to use the mantelpiece. So I want you to come to think, and you can either use a wall or a mantelpiece. I want you to be thinking about, either with a long leg or a bent knee, how could we be rolling our pelvis on top of our standing leg? So you could be like this, or you could be doing this in a forward bend, but make sure if you're in a forward bend, it might be really good to have some more support under your hands. So for example, if I was doing this here and rolling my pelvis, I want to be very light on my hands. I don't want to be leaning onto my hands. I want to yes, a little bit of this rolling your pelvis, either in a forward bend or with your hands here. Yes, my pelvis is level. I'm rolling my pelvis. I'm making sure my standing knee is happy. And I will come and have a little bit of a look. Yeah, very nice. Sofas, Aditi, your sofa would be very helpful at this point, actually. So, yeah, so be creative with the items that you have in your house. So, very nice. Yeah, so just try and sense, when is it that you're, that's it. Nigel, you might find the other sofa would be quite helpful to have your hands on. I think it's a sofa that's behind you. Yeah, so when is it? It's a very nice silhouette, silhouette against your window. Yeah, so when is it that your pelvis is level? How does it feel when you roll your pelvis on top of your standing leg? What happens to your standing leg? We're trying to keep the standing leg pretty quiet, but is that the reality? Aditi, you could have your weight more in your standing heel. That's it, so your pelvis is much more over your standing heel. Good. Even more now, you've come forwards again a little bit. Good. And notice it's fine if your standing knee is bent, but just try and have the knee bending forwards over the foot rather than off to the side. Very nice. Okay, now, you probably know where this is going to. Now, Sheila, you're not, well, you might be able to do this against the wall. You might want to do it in the room. So if you have some wall space, I'll show you what we're going to do. If you have the wall space, so Elaine, if you cleared the wall space for your shoulder stand, you might well be able to do this with your back So I would have a wall here. If I put the blocks, if you imagine that where the blocks are is a wall, and we could be doing this balance. You could be doing it in the room, but you could also be doing it with a wall across the whole of the back of your body, which makes it a lot easier. So yeah, so I'm going to leave that up to you, but I just want you to make sure you stay safe and you're not pushing yourselves. Just wondering if I can, I'm going to just demonstrate here again, because you might be able to see me against this wall here. So go all the way back here, and then yes, you know, it's quite easy to do this. A lot easier to do it with my back all the way against a wall. That's it, Sheila, good, well done. And then always the tricky bit is your head, isn't it? Your head coming along. So remember, you can also have something, some of you do, something under your hand, so it's easier to get your hand onto the floor. It depends how long your legs are. That's very nice, lovely, Nigel. That's great. The hips are right over your heel, which is really good. That's it, Elaine. Very nice, brilliant. Ah, wonderful. That's it, beautiful. Just bring your arm towards your head a bit more, the top arm, that's it. So your hand's right over your shoulder, beautiful. Really nice. Lovely. Yes, Linda, very nice silhouette again. Linda, take your weight more into your heel, if you can do. Ah, that's it, yes, that way, brilliant.
Yes,
well done. Right, and the Sarah as well, that's it, weight into the heel. And there's that moment, maybe.
Yes.
moment maybe when the fingertips even feel they might come off the ground. Yeah, and try both sides, everyone, if you haven't moved on to side 2. Very well done. Helen, you're still a blank, but I'm hoping you're still with us, so. Good. Yeah, so see how the second side feels. Very nice. That's it, lovely. That's it, good, good. That's it, Sheila, and then it's like, can you bring your gaze to look forward? No, that's the tricky bit, isn't it? As soon as you take your eyes off the floor, it feels like
I can nearly touch the ceiling. I can use the ceiling as well.
Ceiling, no, that would be quite helpful. I think any little things like that. Like sometimes if the back heel, the raised leg heel touches a wall, that can be really helpful. Very nice, Elaine, lovely. Lovely. Again, bring the arm a bit more towards your head. That's it. Perfect. Beautiful. Really, really nice. Yes, that's it. Very nice. Good. Good. Okay. Well done. Well done, everyone. Yes. Come back into standing. Have a bit of a shake out. So excellent. Good stuff. You see, by the time we come back to real life classes in my house, you're all going to be sort of so brilliant at all these things. So after that, it might be quite nice for the lower back to come into a squat. So if you need, I think I said to have a book or a yoga block to go under your heels if you need it. If you haven't got that, cushion, you can roll up the back of your mat. Yeah, whatever's going to be helpful for you under your heels to mean that you can stay in a squat. And just have it to hand to start with, because we'll go into a forward bend. Elaine, actually, yes, not you for the squatting. Why don't you come down from the back of your mat into forward, so Elaine, forward bend and dog pose for you from the back of your mat. Everyone else, if you can, yeah, squatting, it would be a forward bend without your block, and then from your forward bend, starting to bend your knees. When your heels come up, slide your block under. Let yourself come down. Good. Into a squat. So Elaine, you can be going through dog pose. You can come down into child pose. So in squatting, if it's comfortable for you, you can let your knees come a bit wider apart and fold your body in between your knees. But notice how it feels in the lower back, because sometimes for me that feels too much of a stretch in my lower back. And I feel more comfortable with my knees in front of my chest. And then from squatting, you're going to sit down and we're going to come and sit in cobbler pose. So we're going to take our weight back on our hands. So it might be that for cobbler pose, you want to be facing the long edge of your mat. It doesn't matter. If you've got a carpet beneath you, it doesn't matter. But if you're on a hard floor, you might just want to, yeah, be facing the long edge. Good. Okay. So let's just see how it feels to be in cobbler pose. We could stay here leaning back. We could hold our feet. We could do a little bit of rocking from side to side. So in this one we go, yeah, sit one sit bone and then the other sit bone maybe. Much more comfortable this one if you have got a nice padded carpet or rug underneath you. What about the leaning? So now keep your pelvis down, but lean your body from side to side. See how that feels. So it's a bit more of a side bend. So one side of your rib cage is lengthening, the other side is closing. There's all other sorts. I mean, these are just anything that feels nice in cobbler pose. A little bit of circling maybe. And then from cobbler pose, we're going to come into pinwheel again, which we touched on briefly at the beginning. So doesn't matter, let one knee, doesn't matter which, one knee come on top of the other knee. Slide that top leg back and do a little bit of circling here. So we're probably going to end up doing this most times in our online classes. I tend to do this every day. Just, yeah, makes my body feel better, makes me feel happy. So really good for the hip joints, really good for the pelvis, really good for the lower back. That's all the reasons I tend to do this. So we're going to turn towards turn our body towards the knee that's going out to the side. And then we're going to fold our weight down over that leg and just have a few breaths resting down towards the ground. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. And then slowly start to walk the hands back in towards you. Come back upright. Slide this back leg on top of the knee you were just folding over. Open your legs out into cobbler pose for a moment. And then go on to the other side. Stacking the knees up, sliding that top knee back. Hello, Daisy. Daisy's just come to say hello now.
Hello, Daisy.
Maybe it's not the most helpful place to sit, is it? Come on. But no, she likes to sit right next to that prop, so it's just not good. So after a bit of circling, turn your body to face the thigh, the leg that's turning out to the side, and then fold down over that leg and have a few breaths. Just resting your body weight down towards the ground. Feeling the breath come in, feeling the breath leave you. And then walking your hands in towards you, coming back upright once more. Again, slide your back leg on top of your front leg. Open your legs out into cobbler pose. And then from cobbler pose, let's lean back. Let's take the legs. Either have the legs just long and forwards, or if you quite like this one, sitting with your legs long and wide, you could come here for a few breaths. So I think I'd just like you to have a few breaths in a sitting pose of your choice. So it can either be here, could be here if you like this. it could be this long cobbler pose if you wanted to be here. And I'll just, let me see how we're doing time-wise. I'll just show you what we're going to do next. I'm just thinking I need to show you what we're going to do. Actually, I think we can do the next thing together, but I'll show you while you're sitting. I'll just show you what we're going to do on our backs. I mean, I think it will be familiar to you. So we're going to do this one where we press into one foot, yeah? One leg long, press into the other leg, and then we're going to add in the arms, this one here. So then we slide our fingertips along the floor. That's the leg on that side. I'll show you this way. We're going to do this one. So nice and relaxing. But unfortunately, to get there, we're going to do a little bit of our rolling back, okay? And a little bit of our coming to balance, give our abdominals to work out. So you're going to get to lie down and relax in a moment. Have your blanket nearby, have warm things ready, but we're going to do first a little bit of rolling down and yeah. So come to sit in this position at the front of your mat. And so we're thinking here about a nice rounded spine. So you can start by folding forwards, looking down at the floor. And keeping looking down at the floor, you can then just start this movement where you start to lean back, sliding your hands up towards you. And then go forwards again. And so all the time here, just looking down at the floor, sliding your hands up towards your knees and then back towards your feet. Thinking about your back being really rounded, the whole of your back. And then from here we can start to see how is it to go a little bit further. Can we roll back, still looking down maybe at the belly now? Can we roll back and then look forwards to come up again? So remember, the more we repeat these, the smoother they can start to feel. So just keep repeating this movement of rocking back, looking at the belly, looking forwards to come back up again. A few more times. In your own time, you could think, oh, what's it like to do this lovely one and lengthen the legs out and, oh, and then come up again. Remember, if your back doesn't like these at the moment, don't force it. You don't have to do it. So again, you can roll back. You might just want to stay with your knees bent. If you want to try lengthening your legs out, you can do. And then coming up again. So perhaps if you've got it in you, one more time, and then we will lie down onto the floor. So rolling back, looking at the belly, looking at your belly, coming to balance on the back of your pelvis and your lower back, maybe the legs lengthen out. Can you breathe? Oh, maybe not. And then, oh, collapsing down. Oh. There we go. And just let yourselves rest down now. And nearer, so just settle down onto your backs. And if at this point you feel you do, it's quite nice, the sun I think is starting to come out, but if you do feel that you want anything warmer on, we're going to do some little movements on our back, but we're starting to quieten down now. And so maybe the first thing to do when you're lying there is just to arrive on your back and see how does it feel to lie down again. And how do you want to lie? Do you want to lie with your legs long? Do you want to lie with your knees bent? And when you've settled on your back, let your head roll to the right and to the left. Just really let the muscles of the neck relax, because when we're doing those, that boat, I think that's Navasana, a little boat, the boat balance, our neck can get quite held in the throat, in the front. So let the head roll. And then bring your hands onto your belly. And just have a few cycles of breath resting your hands on your belly. I'm going to mute everyone now. If you need to talk to me for any reason, just wave your arm at me. But I think just so it's nice and quiet now, I'm going to mute everyone. Okay, so from where you are, if your legs are long, bend both knees and stand your feet on the floor. And to start with, just coming to let your knees tilt a little bit to the right and a little bit to the left. So some of those first movements we were doing right back at the beginning of class. And then just settle your knees in your feet down and come to a little bit of tilting your pelvis on the floor. So tipping your tailbone off the floor and then arching your lower back away from the floor. So tipping your pelvis towards your face and away from your face. And from doing this little tilting movement of your pelvis, you can, if you like, then take this all the way into a couple of easy bridge poses. Okay, and then the next time, so do a couple of bridge poses and then let your pelvis settle down onto the ground. And then keep your right knee bent and your right foot standing on the floor and lengthen your left leg out. So come to that movement where we press down into the right foot and the pelvis lifts on the right side and the pelvis tilts over towards the left. And then we let the right side of the pelvis come back down onto the floor. So repeat this several times. Think about what's happening with your right knee. So as you press into your right foot, you want to send your right knee forwards over your right foot, rather than letting that right knee wander to the left. So pay a little bit of attention to that. It might be that you coordinate your out breath with pressing into your foot. So as you exhale, you press into your right foot, the pelvis lifts on the right. Just let your pelvis settle for a moment. Still keep that right knee bent because you're now going to give yourself a hug with your right arm on top. So cross your elbows over your chest. So now as you exhale, you're going to press into your right foot and you're going to roll across your upper back. And you're going to reach out along the floor on the left with your right fingertips. Good. And your head rolls to the left too. Lovely. And then back down again. Very nice. And keep repeating that several times. So as you press into your foot, you also roll across your upper back towards the back of your left shoulder. Your right fingers reach out along the floor to the left. And your head also rolls towards the left. Very nice. Still feel that your right knee is moving forwards rather than over to the left, however. So let's maybe do that a couple more times. And then when you've done that a couple more times, just uncross your arms, maybe lengthen both legs out on the floor. And just have a few breaths, lying long and quiet, letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. Feeling yourself supported by the ground throughout the length of the back of your body. And then in your own time, bending your left knee, bringing your left foot to stand on the floor. Maybe let your arms rest down by your sides to start with. Aditi, only if that's comfortable for your shoulder. If it's better to have your hands on your belly, keep them there. And then come to the movement of, for a few times, pressing down into the left foot, letting the left side of your pelvis lift away from the floor, sending your knee forwards over the standing foot. And again, as we did on the other side, maybe coordinating that pressing movement with your out breath. So as you exhale, you sink down into your left foot, your pelvis lifts on the left. You feel the pelvis roll, tilt towards the right. And then whenever you want to, you can add in the arms as well. So crossing your arms over your chest with your left arm on top now. So as you press into that left foot, you roll across your upper back towards the back of your right shoulder. You reach your right fingertip, your left fingertips out towards the right, away from you. That's nice. You let your head roll towards the right. So you're giving the whole of the back of your body this lovely massage. So you can imagine that the back of your body is soft and malleable. All these places where we can feel tight and held can start to undo. So do this a few more times, maybe 2 or 3 more times on this side. And in your own time, when you've had enough, uncrossing your arms, lengthening both legs out for a moment. We're nearly at the point of settling down and resting, just a couple more things to do. So when you've let your legs have a little lengthen out, the first thing I was going to suggest was coming back to bridge pose with both feet standing on the floor, seeing how it feels a couple of times for your spine to roll up and down through bridge pose. So sinking down into your feet, sending your knees forwards over your footprints, keeping it easy, no sense of forcing, just a couple of very easy bridge poses, what is available to your body right now. you've done a couple of bridge poses, you can then fold your knees into your chest if you like. Nigel, you might not want to do that, so don't do that. You might want to lengthen your legs out. Holding your knees into your chest and holding around your knees and just doing a little bit of rocking from side to side across the back of your body. Nigel, you might just, like to lengthen your legs out for a moment, or very nice. If you like to take your legs up towards the ceiling and give them a shake out, you can do. Yeah, very nice. Nice, nice legs and arms there. Lovely. Shake out. And then we will finish as we started. Or the last movement is just bending the knees, standing the feet on the floor, tilting your knees to the right and to the left. You can let your head roll with your legs in the same direction or the opposite direction. And then it's time we're going to settle down for a few minutes, just quietly under a blanket, and then we will finish sitting and coming into sitting and chanting Om together 3 times. So we do something as a group at the end. So make yourselves warm and comfortable. If you prefer to spend this last little bit of time, so I've got Daisy very disgruntled here because she wants to lie on the sofa in the sun, just where the laptop is. And being Daisy, she's just barging it out of the way. So if you prefer to sit, that's absolutely fine. But I think, take the chance. It's nice to, nice to see blue in the background there. Take the chance to have a little bit of a rest. Yeah, we might be stuck at home, but it doesn't mean that we're taking any more time to rest. So settling down. These are very chilled out dogs. Settling down on your backs. Feeling the weight of your head on the floor, and you could let your head again roll a little bit to the right and a little bit to the left. Notice how you feel in the back of the neck and your shoulders. If you're working from home, we can be, everything here can be getting a bit tight and achy. So let the back of the shoulders settle down. How are the arms resting? Can the arms be heavy? Can the elbows really be giving their weight to the ground? What about your palms? Are they soft and relaxed? Fingers long and quiet. Feeling the contact of the back of your rib cage on the floor and some of your vertebrae. All the way down to the back of your pelvis. So we had a bit of a focus on the pelvis today, the sense of the pelvis as one of the centers of ourselves. So here, feel the weight of your pelvis resting on the ground, heavy, wide, steady. And then down into the legs, giving the weight of the legs to the ground, those long bones. If your knees are bent, all the way down into your footprints. If your legs are long, all the way down to your heels. Feeling the breath come in, feeling the breath leave you. Feeling the ground supporting the whole of yourself. And as you lie just for another few moments, you could be aware of sounds around you. There may be sounds of bird song. There might be the feeling of the sun starting to come out, the air on your skin. In a moment, I'm going to ring the singing bowl 3 times. Just let the sound come to you. And after the third sound has ebbed away, then make your way over into sitting so we can chant Om together, and I'll turn the sound back on for that, obviously. So welcome back, everyone. I've unmuted you. Otter looks like she had a very nice relaxation there, Mel.
Mm-hmm. I've got Blue lying on his back with me.
Oh look, oh, Blue did settle down. Oh bless him. That's so
Yeah,
cute.
he was on his back as well.
I do love it. I do love all the animals in. So it's, I kept having to move the laptop because Daisy plonked herself down next to it and kept shoving it along. Bless her. So yes, I just thought it's quite nice that we, you know, I'm starting all my online classes. We're finishing with chanting Om. It's this sound that symbolises the interconnectedness of all life, which is I think, you know, just a very important message at the moment. So we'll see how it sounds online. So you can have your hands at your heart. Take a moment just to bring your awareness inward, this sense of connecting with that inner quiet place. Letting the breath come in when you're ready. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I think, as I said in my email, I'm not stopping. It seems pointless to stop for an Easter break, given everything just stays the same. So I'm going to carry on teaching, and I'm changing. If you want to join one class a week, it's going to be £5. If you want to join more than one, it will be 10, and you can then join as many as you like. And I think what most people are doing is, I mean, you can pay weekly, or I'll send out an email, or you can just pay like a sort of a sum, and I can keep a record of, you know, when your credit runs out. So that's basically how it's going to continue, because I think it's, you know, things are uncertain. So, yeah, so I'll send the email out. What else was I going to say? I'm going to try and sort it out so we don't have that waiting room, because I thought that's what I'd done. And poor Rosie, I think, tried to join us late and didn't get admitted. So it might be by the next class that you do have to put a password in to get in. But, you know, and I think if you have any problems joining a class, do always phone me, because I can, you know, we can sort it out, and that's fine. Phone me. Message me. Phoning is always good. Yeah.
Okay. Lovely.
Does
Thank
that mean
you very
we're
much.
teaching on Monday?
What's that, Sheila?
Is it Easter Monday next Monday, or is it the following
It is Monday. I mean, I am planning to teach, so I will be here, because it's at the moment. Every day is the same, isn't it? It doesn't seem very different. So yeah, that's my plan. But
Okay, that's
If
good.
anyone thinks they're owed classes, do let me know as well, because it's all a bit, you know, yeah, it's just let me know.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye-bye.